Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring AlteC in the top left corner, playing our blue Protoss, and in the bottom right we have ViperXk, our red Terran. Both players are in diamonds. We are on Ohana, and that's really all you need to know about the match. ViperXk is in very high diamond. I expect he'll go to Masters eventually, shortly, I'm sure. It's hard to get in Masters nowadays. The skill cap is higher than it used to be. I mean, that's to be expected, but it really is. AlteC sometimes plays Zerg. His primary race is Zerg. Evidently, this is... I don't know if this counts as an off race or if this is just him switching to Protoss. I did that a short while ago and then regretted it and went back to Zerg because I was so accustomed to it. I don't really know. I can tell you that playing Protoss is a lot of fun, and some of the macro mechanics, such as warping in waves of zealots and stalkers mid-battle or constructing things mid-battle, slapping back to your hatcheries to get those larva injects, they kind of mesh. They go together pretty nicely. This is a bit awkward from ViperXk, placing the supply depot down on the low ground. Probably going to see a barracks go up right on top of it. Usually you see this stuff constructed at the top, but only if you really need to deny the scouting, and since there's no super early gas timing out of ViperXk, tells me he's probably going to be going for an expansion. This is not a tight wall off, but it is kind of a delaying wall off. Anything that's going to be moved up front won't have to kill anything, but they will have to one single file go through the small gap on the south side of the ramp. But with this placement, it tells me he's going to be going for a more macro style build, get that early expansion, and he's also sending out a pretty early scout for himself. I mean, 14, not super early, but there's not really much to see here unless it's going to be some sort of one gate all in or a super early expansion, neither of which is he going to scout. I mean, the single gateway is almost done. The assimilator has finished. He's going to have plenty of gas to get that cybernetics core up and started on the warp gate tech. Only interesting thing to note is that the pylon placed in the top left corner is probably not going to get scouted. I mean, why would you go back there unless you suspect it? Oh, he's awfully close. Nope. Just barely out of range. Pylon placed in the top left corner could key ViperXk into a late scan. That sort of placement, you'd expect to see some Stargates there or some sort of Dark Templar rush or something like that. But again, the lack of double gas timing tells me that if there is going to be some high-tech play, it will be slightly delayed, and that should give ViperXk enough time to get up his normal defenses against it. You know, maybe he gets just an engineering bay up and then plenty of anti-air, or just detection that he banks one scan from an orbital command. The possibilities are endless, and when you get to the high diamond, you can expect to see those possibilities to start to be kind of taken care of. They work themselves into builds pretty naturally, as long as you're thinking about it. AlteC is building a Nexus down on the low ground at his natural expand. Still no second gas out of him just yet, but he has started on that cybernetics core, and he's still spending his chrono boost on his Nexus, not to be confused with it being spent on the warp gate tech. That's important because if there is going to be aggression out of him again, it's going to be delayed. We still don't see anything being built up at that pylon on the top left corner, but keep an eye on it. I'm curious. 2 more barracks being added on for ViperXk while that command center is almost finished, as well as the double gas. So it appears to be that his economy is exactly where he wants it to be. Continually producing SCVs, I'm sure, but he's going to be shifting into a bit of an aggressive stance. Probably going to see an add-on or 2 added on to these barracks. Yeah, probably not going to grab either of these gases for a little while. He definitely needs more minerals than he does gas for the time being. Obviously, it's important to get up stem and combat shield and whatnot, but it's also important to have enough ground forces in place to prevent some sort of 4-gate from AlteC. It's going to be delayed. Obviously, the cybernetics core is not quite done with the warp gate, and the chrono boost is still being spent on the Nexus, so it's definitely not going to be all in, but small little pokes, keeping ViperXk honest, make sure that he spends a little bit of minerals and gas into the defense of his base, rather than just blowing it all on his economy and then overrunning Protoss later on. Just the single tech lab being added onto the barracks, and you can see that the combat shield has been started, but it's not going to be like a super all-in timing if you have stem, combat shield, and +1 or whatnot, because all of that would have been started near simultaneously, or at least the tech buildings would have been in place. With the gas, though, we're going to see his gas start to climb. Wow, 500 gas saved up for AlteC. What is he going to do with all that gas? Obviously, he's got a lot of money, can afford to warp in quite a lot of units, and I wonder what he's going to do about that. I mean, he's got a single probe down here in the bottom left corner, going to throw down a pylon maybe, but that gas has to be spent on something. Twilight Council could key us into that. I mean, 500 gas, we could be seeing some early DTs. It's also possible that he's getting this just for the upgrades and is playing more for a late style game, but we'd expect to see some forges down because of that. Other possibilities are, of course, High Templars, but that would mean that he's playing very much for the late game, which actually is not going to be that bad for ViperXk. Obviously, High Templars make mincemeat out of Marines, but compared to DTs, you know, the insta-lose possibility is pretty low. You can definitely afford to get out Ghosts by then, and this Bio Ball that's shaping up for ViperXk is going to be pretty mobile, and it might be able to punish AlteC if he's going for some sort of large death ball late game push. Both players are playing for the late game, though. I mean, we've got the +1 on the way. Combat Shields is done, but Stim hasn't even been started. Oh, there it goes. Started. The tech lab, or reactor being added onto the factory is not for Hellions. It's probably for the medevacs from that starport that's being added on just underneath it. This will probably signify the push coming on, but I expect it. The stem should have been started a little bit earlier so that the push could happen simultaneously. Speaking of push, AlteC is getting into a nice position for it. He's beginning to bank that gas again. And, oh, Templar Archive. Fantastic. Storm, like I said, excellent AoE, and AoE likes to eat up these guys. Those Marines are going to be in a lot of trouble if some money shots can be landed by AlteC. I mean, you know, those Silent Storms can absolutely ravage them, especially when they're not supported by a huge swath of medevacs and some Marauders to absorb those hits. And without Stim, they're not going to be as nimble, so they can't really dance around. But remember, Stim's going to finish before the Templar Archive. That means that the Templar Archive, even if it started immediately on the Storm and used every chrono boost, is probably not going to key in to these early bouts that are going to be happening. Armory being added on probably just for the upgrades. Really wants to get the +2, +3 upgrades for those Marines, so that this nimble ball can really chew up a lot of bad guys. Kind of nervous there, kind of worried that there was going to be a more impressive push than there actually is, but unfortunately AlteC sees and pulls back. We don't see any robotics facility out of him just yet. I expect we're going to get some observers out on the field shortly, because once you start seeing this, which is medevacs and Marines, you're going to know that drops are in your future shortly, and you need to start preparing for those drops. You need pylons placed on the south side of your base along this wall to scout them, maybe even a pylon down here by the 4th so that you can spot them as they come in. But we're going to see the Protoss is going to be increasingly paranoid against Terran, because you got to be worried about those drops, and one drop can absolutely ravage your ground forces, especially when you're only on 2 bases. You can see he's shaping up to look like he wants to take that 3rd. He's clearing out the Marine that was positioned there just to deny that, and he's also placed some stalkers, and more importantly a pylon to notify him when that 4th has been taken. Silent Storm is on the way. Is he spinning chrono boost? He's not. He's chrono boosting the blink. We saw charge was already done too, so Gateway heavy force, which is in keeping to the fact that we haven't seen a robotics facility out of him yet. Doesn't have as many robotics warp gates as you'd expect. Usually you can do around 8 off of a 2 base economy. However, he's spending a lot of his extra money, and especially his extra gas, on the heavy tech. Here comes a small little push. Terran's going to take this handily. What with the support from the Marines, the medevacs on those Marines. Those Marines really were being outperformed by the Protoss ball. However, they were just so resilient because of those medevacs. They definitely came out on top. Also, the +1 has been finished. I don't know what upgrades the Protoss has right now, but they're going to have to be worried about this medevac drop incoming. He's seen that build order. We can see some nice reactions out of him throwing down those pylons now that he's aware that that drop play is happening. Spinning 1 chrono boost at just expiring on that Templar Archive, hoping to get out that Storm so that the next engagement that he has will be a bit more successful than the last one. I mean, switching over to the Resources Lost tab. He came out just a little bit on the bottom of that, but he's got his army position in his natural, so AlteC's going to quickly come up, probably lose this pylon, but will not lose any probes, which is far more important, and he also is aware that that push was coming. At the same time, ViperXk moving his stemmed army, and they're stemmed, off into the top right corner to deny this 3rd that was just now being taken. Another bit of a loss for Protoss. However, he's not losing much in these engagements. He is losing things, you know, a little bit of minerals here, a little bit of minerals there. Definitely behind on the Resources Lost tab, but his economy is pretty strong. I mean, 51 over 46. And as time goes on, these High Templars are going to be aggregating. Oh no! Whoa, no! Quick stim for ViperXk, an absolutely fantastic scan, showing him that those High Templars were there and exposing them to those Marines. The drop drew the fire from the majority of the force. However, they weren't hotkeyed together, I don't think. And at the same time, ViperXk is moving in with the majority of his forces. These guys are going to get cleaned up, but all the Zealots are choked up on the ramp, denying them the added damage per second as well as the added health to support those Stalkers. So many of those Stalkers went down. We can see only 4 of them are left, and now just the Zealots turning. ViperXk begins to hack away at them one more time. At the same time, there is a drop going off, and there goes the stim. At the same time, pushing into the mineral line, we can see this resources lost tab is absolutely ridiculous. The harvester advantage that AlteC had just a couple seconds ago, 51 to 46, has fallen. It looks like they're targeting down the High Templar archive, which will absolutely be devastating to AlteC. He needs that AoE to deal with this aggression coming out of ViperXk. It looks like this drop is going to get completely cleaned up, but at the same time, ViperXk is moving in with his entire force and is pushing. He's going to target down that Nexus. AlteC's main force is just cleaning up the initial drop in his main, and even though some Zealots were warped in on the low ground, that Nexus does go down. All of a sudden he's got 35 harvesters and is just one base mining. He's trying to get that third, but even if that third goes up, he's so far behind. We can see +3 weapons is being built, +2 armor is being taken, and the third has also been grabbed, and that orbital command is being warped in. ViperXk is looking like he is in a commanding lead, and his economy is just going to keep on steamrolling. We can see it. He's doing that. He's just capitalizing on the advantage he's got. Like, you can't judge him for that. You can judge him for this. All those Zealots charging in and are going to get absolutely chewed up. Nice stutter step micro there, just demolishing the remaining of the Zealots. But there really wasn't much that AlteC could do after that first engagement. I mean, that first engagement, the third engagement or something like that. That Nexus, when it went down, basically signified AlteC was done, and it was a fantastic play. The snipe right here was phenomenal. Each one of those High Templars could have completely changed that fight right here, where they chewed up all those Stalkers. If there were 2 High Templars to throw out on a storm, this would have had a radically different ending. I'm sure AlteC would still definitely be in this game. That Nexus would probably still be up. Instead, these Zealots needed some sort of support, and they didn't have it, and they got chewed up in this engagement. Fantastic play from ViperXk. Really nice drop. AlteC, I'm sorry, man. It really was just because of those High Templars that you lost. Hey guys, if you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I'm Ibigandscary. Bye.